Have you ever been told that you're not going to be successful because you aren't out there networking? Have you ever been told that you're too quiet? Being an extrovert and an introvert is a wide controversy for years. And so many people are following the myth that if you want to be successful, you need to put yourself out there and live as an extrovert. Today, we are debunking that myth. We are breaking down the walls of what it means to be an introvert and an extrovert and teaching you through the success patterns of my guest that you need to own your gifts and that you can have just as much success, even if you are introverted. I'm Clara Capano, and stay tuned because this is Women Winning Their Way. Oh, well, welcome to the show, Marisa. It is so good to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you.
I have been really excited to talk with you because when we talk about the show, Women Winning Their Way, we talk about breaking down expectations, standards. You have done this so many times and in so many different ways. You are a working mom, you have four kids, you have a great relationship with your significant other. You have come through the military, which is generally considered a man's world. And you have also created a successful sales position as an entrepreneur. And you've done all of this while being an introvert. And that's one of the things I really want to talk about today, because I think so many times people think in order to be successful, you have to be very extroverted. And you have been able to do all of these things and again, do it on your terms. So I would love to just kind of dive in and just sort of, talk with you. When you hear women winning their way, when you hear living life on your terms, what comes to your mind?
I feel like women winning their way, you know, I feel like, I'm an 80s gal born, Gen X.
Mhm.
And I feel like when I was coming up into adulthood, you know, there was this almost connotation that women, the path was already set
Mhm.
for us for the most part.
But
And some of us, though, just broke out of that mold and we're just like, we're just going to do it our way. I certainly have. I left at 17, left my house at 17 and joined the military and served for 19 years and got my college degree. And then came into the wonderful world of real estate
Mhm.
and decided that I was going to be successful, even though being in any kind of social situation makes me greatly uncomfortable. And I found a way for the business to work for me in my situation. And that's what women winning means to me.
I love that. So let's unpack this a little bit because, I would imagine that when you announced that you were going to go into real estate, which is again considered very outgoing, you have to meet with people, sometimes strangers, you've got to do small talk, you've got to show properties. Did people think you were kind of crazy? Like, why are you doing this? This doesn't seem like the right fit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I heard that. I was told many times that, do you know what real estate is? And I'm like, well, yeah, like I understand what it is. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, just know that if you're not successful in your first year, that's okay. I heard that several times too.
Mhm.
And, but a lot of people who know me also know that I am relentless and I will not quit until I figure it out. And those friends were like, you're going to find a way to dominate. I just know it. And so when I was hugely successful, not hugely successful, but pretty successful in my first year, some of my friends were like, we knew you could do that. Like, we
Mhm.
know who you are. So that was pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And, I know that there have been several studies. Daniel Pink wrote a great book called To Sell is Human. And he actually talked about the success rates of introverts versus extroverts. He said there really is nothing that says introverts cannot be successful, especially in sales. You know, talk to us first of all about how did you build your business? Because part of building a business is you have to put yourself out there. You have to be vulnerable. You know, again, you've got to, kind of pull back the curtain. What were some of the things that you did to also honor yourself and protect yourself still being who you are and being authentic?
So honestly, I didn't really put myself out there. What I did, because I was brand new to Colorado Springs, I had just moved here from Alaska and knew nobody except my kids and like their, you know, friends' parents. My
Mhm.
husband was deployed and I was going through real estate school online to earn my real estate license. And while I was going through school, I went and created a social media group that was geared toward people who were moving to the Springs. I wanted to set myself apart by being like a subject matter expert on all things Colorado Springs, even though I really knew nothing about this place since I had just moved here myself. Google was my best friend, it still is. And so I created the social media group and basically talked to myself for 3 months. It was just ridiculous. And I would put all this time and effort into creating these posts that were supposed to be informative, and I had like 5 people listening to me. And then they started to tell their friends, and then their friends told their friends. And next thing I knew, I had this group of like a few thousand, well, several thousand at this point. But back then it was a few hundred. And I know that when I did get my license, I had 200 people in that group. And then I closed 48 deals in my first 10 months.
Which,
So
again, for anybody that is not familiar with real estate, that is like unheard of for a first year. I mean, most people after several years are not closing that kind of business.
isn't that
So,
crazy?
yeah, again, and what I love though is I think so many people, extrovert, introvert, doesn't matter. I think so many people, are afraid to position themselves as a subject matter expert because they don't know the information. And what I heard you say is you would find it out. So you would put things out there even if you didn't have all the information, knowing that you would make it work. So what would you say to somebody, who has that fear? Because there are so many people, and I'm sure that you have people that you know too, that they get stuck in it has to be perfect. I have to know it all. And how do you share that with somebody? Because it was obviously just innate in you. So what would you say to someone that's hesitant to take the leap of faith because they feel like they have to be perfect?
Well, think about it like this. So, first of all, having your real estate license already puts you heads above everybody else that's not in this industry. So, you have that going for you as a real estate agent. You know a lot about what's going on. I mean, unless you are selling, 10 homes a month, it's really hard to figure out where the market is. And so
Mhm.
you always have to be studying. I was trying to fake it till you make it, and I guess really good at that. So what I would do, because I didn't want to come off as somebody who just got my license, when I had somebody who wanted to see a house, I would go on the MLS and see what other homes had sold near that home. So when I was walking them through the house, because everything was on video tour since they were out of state and moving here, I'd be on video tour and I'd say, okay, so I found out that, last week that home 2 doors down sold for this amount. And I spoke to the agent and this is what they said about the gap that they had, the gap appraisal. And so I would go over all of these other homes that I had no,
Mhm.
like, there was no knowledge. I just had to do the research
Right.
because my greatest fear, I do have a fear of coming off and not knowing the answers. So I almost overstudy. So I Googled the heck out of everything. I would Google Colorado Springs school districts, Colorado Springs new jobs, Colorado Springs road work, so that when I was going into these houses, I could say things like, now keep in mind they're going to be reworking Route 24, and that's going to really impact your drive. Like, I only knew that because I Googled it, but I sounded like I knew everything to these people. And I was able to give them really helpful advice when it came to finding areas and, where the parks were and what, of course, we can't talk about school districts and quality of school districts, but I could talk about their programs, and
Sure.
I knew their programs because I was Googling Colorado Springs school districts every single morning to see what they were coming out with. And
Yeah.
so I say, when worst comes to worst, just Google your way through it. Like, you will be so helpful to people if you just over research and then put out what
Mhm.
you can. And that's
Yes.
what I did. And it gave me so much confidence because
Mhm.
then as I'm educating people and they're like, wow, no one told us that. Thank you so much. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm on the right path. Like, here I go.
Yeah.
So that's my
Which I think
advice.
is a really smart lesson because I think so many times as we are in an industry for so long, I don't want to, I hate to use the word complacent, but I think we can get complacent. We think we know it all and we stop doing the research. And life changes. And I remember one of my mentors used to tell me, when you're at the doctor's office and they'll ask you all the questions, many times they leave. That's because they're in their office going through the medical journals, learning and researching. And I think that that's a really strong lesson is we cannot stop doing that. We always have to be educating ourselves so we can better serve. Like you said, it builds your confidence, and also it just is better for the clients because they're getting the right information so that they can make an informed decision. So I think that's a really smart lesson. You
Mhm.
mentioned that, you started this social media group. I think a misnomer in business, especially when we're in entrepreneurship sales, that the only way to get clients is got to go to coffees and lunches. You got to join networking groups. And, you did all of this without doing that. So I know that you mentioned you posted things on social media. How did you take it from posting to actually building relationships?
So by how did I gain clients through that?
I guess so, yeah, because
So
again, it's one thing to just post something on social media, but at some point in time, you have to talk with them and get
right.
engagement.
So yes. So after a certain amount of time, right, I had this social media group. And at the beginning, the first 5 or 6 months, I would get really excited about the views because as an admin of a group, you can see how many people saw your post. And I'd be like, yes, 15 views today. Like, of course, no interactions, no likes, no
Mhm.
hearts, no nothing. But I could see that people were looking to see what I was doing. And my what I try and do with my social media posts, and this is a lot different than I feel like a lot of us are taught. A lot of us are taught, your statement and then your call to action. You need to have your call to action at the end of every single post. I never do that. Like, act like you're talking to your friends. So, I mean, of course, these are moving to groups, but I would also talk about other things too. And I would talk about my kids. Last night I posted about that movie Twisters that just came out with that actor Glenn, whatever his name is.
Yes, very
And
handsome.
it had a picture of I posted a picture of him, and then under it, I was like, "Moms, just go see this movie. You'll thank me later." And then it was boom, like a ton of
Mhm,
comments underneath it. So it doesn't always have to be informative. People just want to feel like you're their friends. And
mhm.
so when I start my post, when I end my post, it's very conversational. And so I have never once asked for business. All of my clients reached out to me and asked me to help them find a house or sell their house. And the thing is, with this funnel, because it's not like people are ever leaving my group, they come in and then they just sit and stay, and then we create a relationship, right? So I had somebody reach out to me 2 weeks ago. And she was like, "Hey, we're finally ready to sell our house. I've been following you for 4 years. Like, I'm so excited. Can't wait to have you help us." So I'm going to this listing appointment. I already have it. It's not like she's interviewing other people. She already knows, like, and trusts me, even though I've never met her before. We've never
Mhm.
interacted in person. We maybe have spoken a couple times, through engagement on my social media posts. But the important thing is that she was excited to reach out to me. And so I just went over and she didn't ask me about commission. She didn't ask me about list price. She was just like, okay,
Right.
what's the next step? What do I do here? And then
Because
I
you
was like,
built
all right.
trust through, even though it was again through social media, by educating, by showing your human side, by
Right.
being there, you built trust online. And that was a transfer of trust. That's amazing.
Yes. And so this funnel is just huge at this point. So I did stop real estate for about a year and a half where I had my team and my focus was leading my team. And then I started real estate for introverts. So then my focus was there too. So I knew that I couldn't serve my clients and do all of these things well. And it's very important for me to do things at a very high, level. So I got out of sales for a year and a half, just came in again 6 weeks ago, already have 7 people under contract. They were just kind of sitting there waiting for me to come back. And now I had 2 listing appointments last weekend. I have a closing tomorrow. Like it's just, it happened like that. And the funnel was there and ready for me. So
Mhm.
what I love about it is that it is a sales funnel, but more importantly, these are my friends.
Yeah.
And because I don't ever want to go to any social event, Clara, y'all saw me at the Ninja Selling for Leadership with Larry Kendall up in
Mhm.
Fort Collins. I am a hot mess in person. I'm just not going to get anywhere if you're relying on me to do sales in person. But I am very comfortable behind a screen, and I love talking to people in that way. And so
Mhm.
I use that to help me, do what I do with real estate.
Yeah. And I think again, that's another big message of doing it your way. You found a way to bring this in so that it matches with you authentically. Because
Mhm.
I think at the heart of it, you can get behind being a good friend. I'm sure that when you're one on one with your friends, you're very present with them. You're very engaged. And that is now translating because you're focusing on building relationships, not building sales. You're not focused on getting the transaction. You're focused on building the relationships and delivering value. And then the business is following from that. And I think that's a huge lesson that we all need to understand is again, you don't have to do it the way everybody else is doing it. It's finding the pattern that works for you.
Exactly. And a question that I often get, they're like, well, you do eventually have to meet these people. Like, how do you manage that? Well, by then, the small talk part is over. Like, these
Mhm.
people are my people. Like, we have been having conversations. I know everything about their family life. And even though we've never met in person, because that's the part of extrovertedness that scares me. I don't want to do the small talk. It makes me so
Mhm.
uncomfortable. It drains me. I like it really does exhaust me. I think I slept for 2 days after that conference in Fort Collins. I was so tired and I wasn't even talking to anybody. I was like by myself at my table.
Do you know that less than 75% of people do not get enough sleep? I know for years that this was something I struggled with. I would fall into bed exhausted, only to then toss and turn all night long and wake up feeling unrested. Sleep is critical to our health, well being, and productivity. I am so excited to partner with Lisa Gibb and Sam V, who have crafted the perfect night's sleep. We cannot walk around like sleep zombies the next day. Lisa and her team at Sam V understand this. And with over 40 years of quality craftsmanship, Somvi sheet sets are designed to create a perfect environment to offer you a restful night's sleep. They use the highest quality fabrics and they have products that focus on temperature regulation. Ladies, you know what I mean about that. With their products that include mattress enhancers to sheet sets, lots of different kinds of unique pillows, comforters, blankets, and more. They literally have you covered and ready for a quality night's sleep. All the products with Somv will wrap you in luxury each and every night. The people at Somv are committed to one thing: a quality night's sleep. So connect with Lisa Gibb, your personal sleep consultant, and build your personal and luxury sleep package today. Connect with Lisa at www.lisagibb.somnvie.com. Invest in your rest with Somv today.
So I think that that's the wonderful thing about this business specifically is that you can really make it fit your personality. It is not a one size fits all. If somebody tells you that the only way to work in sales is to cold call and door knock, just run in the other direction
Yeah.
because it's not true. You have to get to the root of who you are, where you're comfortable, and then you'll attract your people. So I feel like, within my groups, it's not like everybody who's in those groups uses me, and that's completely fine. But my people use me, the people that I attract use me,
Yeah.
because they relate to what I'm saying, whatever it is that I'm saying.
Which is so great. I want to flip over into some strategies of being a woman in business. You mentioned that, when you moved, your husband was deployed.
Hmm.
You have 4 kids. You're running this business. You were going to real estate school. What are some of the things that you do to keep the machine going? You mentioned you have a team, but those are a lot of moving parts. So, what are some of the things that you do as far as delegating, time blocking, structuring? How do you make it all work?
Well, I do have a team. So my first hire was my husband, and he worked as my TC until we realized that that dynamic just wasn't going to work out for us. And
Mhm.
so then we transitioned him into lending. And then I hired one of my clients. She was a school teacher, and I've convinced her to leave her job and to count on me to provide her with a living. And so she became my TC on steroids.
Mhm.
I do have an admin on top of that. And then I have people that help me with social media. I still do all of my own posts. I feel like you can't dole that out. It has to be authentic if you're really trying to relate on a personal level with people. And so I will never hand that off, no
Mhm.
matter what people tell me, because I've been told to do that several times.
I'm the same
But
way.
yeah, I can't do it. I'm like, "Well, why then that's not my relationship then. That's your relationship with
Mhm.
them with my picture there." Like it's just that makes no sense. So I have those things to help, and then really the key to me keeping my sanity is waking up early. I get up at 5. It is my me time. And I work on social media really between 5 and 6:30 ish, and make sure that that's done. That's my lead generation. That's how I fill my cup, is by pouring into people that way. And
Mhm.
so I am on there every morning posting. And because in my world, if I wait until after 10 a.m., it will just never get done. It will never happen. Like my day will take over, as real estate agents days tend to do. And really between the hours of 10 and 3 belong to my agents and my clients.
Yeah.
And so I really try to make sure that, I'm working on my social media. As soon as I'm done with social media, then I'm texting, like not email blasts, but actually engaging with my people. So I'm texting them, seeing what I can do for them. If they're under contract, hey, I know it's been a couple days. What do you need from me this week? If they are past clients, I do something where I send out 10 text messages every morning with a picture of what's going on in Colorado Springs, like the mountains, the thunderstorm or something, my flowers, something generic. And I let them know that I miss them, and I hope that they're doing well. And so I do all of my communication in the morning, and then I leave my house at 10, and then I'm gone pretty much the rest of the day until I'm back home with my kids.
Mhm. So how do you manage it with your family to be able to be present? Because especially when we run our own business and we're an entrepreneur, whether it's real estate or another one, that can be so all encompassing. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of times people are not making time, especially early in their career. Their first couple years, sometimes we have to be there. So how do you manage it? Do you have certain days where you're available for evening appointments? How do you communicate with your family? Like, how do you make that dynamic work so that you're still making time for your family and still also being able to be there for your clients?
Well, I will say my first 2 years, I was not present. There was no momming or wifing happening in the first 2 years. I remember when I came into real estate and I was like, this is going to be great. I am going to be around my kids all the time, and I'm going to really run my own schedule. And like, I think that was maybe the first 2 weeks, and it hasn't been that way since.
Mhm.
But I also come from the military. So up until I moved here, I was in the military, and I would be gone for months and months and months at a time. So to me, at the very beginning, I was like, well, at least I'm home. I'm not gone. I'm physically in the house. And then I think 2 years in, I realized like this is not a quality of life. And that's when I brought in my assistants and everything else. But the great thing about the way that I've really constructed my business is that I feel like there are a lot of real estate agents who because they have to go to events and they have to work for the listing or they have to work for the buyer because they haven't built that trust yet. I skip all those steps.
Yeah.
Those steps for me are done between 5 a.m. and
Mhm.
6:30 a.m. That's when those steps are completed. I don't every listening appointment that I go on is mine already. I am not wasting time
Mm,
trying to grab business. My business is coming into my inbox.
yeah.
And so I feel like my real estate schedule looks a lot different than other people because I'm not doing late nights. My day ends at 5.
Exactly.
It ends at 5. I'm home. We're cooking. We're
Yeah.
having family.
All those things that people would have said, there's no way you can build a business unless you do these things. You did all those things and are
Yeah.
still having success. And you're
Yeah.
having the freedom and the luxury of having that work life harmony.
Yes. Yes.
Amazing.
And it's magical. I often teach people about how I do this and how I've been able to build my business. And somebody said, well, because I also don't use a CRM. I mean, I do. I have one. I pay for it, but I like have not logged in months and months and
It's like
months.
every rule
I'm
in
so
real
sorry.
estate 101, you're doing the
But I
opposite.
feel like if I rely on a CRM, then it's not me anymore.
Yeah.
And so I don't use that. I have it's very old school Larry Kendall list that I write down and like stick in my pocket. And then I'm like, okay, I gotta, make sure I'm communicating with so and so. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So they're asking me, like, well, Marissa, if you don't have a CRM and you're not putting people into your CRM, how are you staying in front of them after they close on their house? And I'm like, what are you talking about? All of those people are in my groups. All I have to do is make one post and they all see it. Like
Mhm.
that's me staying in front of them. That's it. And then they comment and then I comment and we're having a conversation and that's it.
Oh my god, I love it. That is
Yeah.
so good. So, learning what you've like learned, what do you think are some of the best things that an introvert can bring to the table when it comes to having success in business?
I think that I now say that being an introvert is an actual superpower. When
Yeah.
I'm focused on a client, I am focused on my clients. Like I get so involved with them because I'm not scattered to the winds just trying to meet some random person and make them my friend so that eventually I can buy or sell their house for them. I'm so engaged that I get to know them on a very deep and personal level. Like I call my clients client families.
Mm,
And even that verbiage, in addressing them, it shifts your mindset and it's really and truly the way that I see them. Like my clients that closed this morning, like I know even though they met me on social media, you'd think that we had known each other forever. Like, I know that her parents met online like 25 years ago, and her mom moved from Canada to the States after meeting her dad twice, and they got married. And I know the names of their dogs. I know exactly like my closing gifts are all very, very personal. And it's things that I pick up in our conversations because I don't like small talk, but I really enjoy getting to know people and
mhm.
figuring out how to serve them.
Yeah.
Being an introvert is your greatest asset. If you're listening to this and you are an introvert, it is your greatest asset. Don't let anybody fool you. I feel like my relationships with these people, my client families are so deep thanks to my introvertedness.
Yeah.
So,
Incredible.
absolutely a superpower.
That's incredible. Well, you have so much going on. Again, you mentioned that you're sort of getting back into the sales aspect. You have your team, but what are some of the other things? What's next for Marissa that you are working on?
Oh my gosh, who knows? I feel like as I grow in this business, I'm learning more and more about what I can do with my gifts.
Mhm.
And so I made a small shift like 2 years ago when the interest rates started to change. And I have my groups here, my Facebook groups here. And when the interest rates started to shift, it scared me and I started to create groups all across the country and I was like, well, in case this area crashes, maybe I can depend on these other areas for income if I'm able to place a real estate agent in that group and then gain referrals off of that group. So now I have 60 something groups and I've hand selected agents across the country and I place them in there and I teach them how to grow their business. I
Love
have two agents who just joined me at the beginning of the year. And in their groups, I think they've each sold at least 8 houses since they've come on, and they're brand new agents, recently licensed.
that.
So I know that the system works.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I have my real estate for introverts, which is my group where I teach people exactly what I'm talking about. Because there really is a fantastic space in the real estate market for introverts, but nobody's talking about it. Because
Mhm.
the extroverts are all chit chatting and telling everybody how to do it their way. No, 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 no. We have our own way to do things. You do not have to go out to events. You do not have to make yourself uncomfortable. No more small talk for us. Like, let's just get out there and be ourselves and serve authentically.
Yeah.
So I have that group, and that's where I focus on that. And then I have my insiders group, which is a small paid for group, and that's where I actually take my posts that I make in other groups and I cut and paste it and put it in there so that people who are they don't understand what posts should look like and what it means to be
Mm,
engaging, they can use those posts as reference, or just a lot of them honestly just copy and paste and put it in their group, and it's effective. So
that's
that's
great.
what I have
Wow.
going. We'll see what happens. Who knows?
I
I'm not sure
love it.
where this takes me,
Well,
but
yeah, we're going to be putting all of your information in the show notes because I know that there's probably some real estate agents that might want to work with you. Also, I just think there's so many other people that are going to be hearing what you're saying and saying, how can this work for me in my field of insurance or whatever it may be? And so you've just added so much value. The last question I have for you is sitting where you sit today, how do you define success for yourself now?
so success for me has really changed, as I've aged. And I feel like here in my 40s, it's really getting rid of the dead weight, where you're trying to be somebody that you're not,
Mhm.
and truly embracing who you are, even the parts of you that may have been seen as something that's not good. I remember growing up, my parents, and they didn't mean any harm by this. They were just like, oh, so sorry for Marissa. She's just shy. So sorry about our daughter. Like, she's introverted. And I would hear that a lot. I would hear about how serious I was. And here in my 40s, I embrace that, and I use their gifts. They're gifts that I was given, and I'm using that, and being able to appreciate who I am to my core has been my greatest success. And letting my kids watch that transformation and letting them know that, you know, who cares that, you're shy and need your alone space? Like, because
Mhm.
all my kids are just like me. Like, they're exactly like me. They want to go off to their rooms and have alone time if they've had too much people time. And, we're teaching them to embrace that and let that be an asset. And
Yeah.
so that's, I think, has been my greatest success.
Love that. Oh, Marissa, thank you so much. It has been such a joy getting to know you and watching how you really have just crafted a whole different perspective. And I love that you are really debunking the myth that to be successful, you have to be extroverted because there are so many people out there, myself included, who want to do things a different way but don't think they can. And you have just given so many of us permission to tap into, like you said, our gifts and turn those into superpowers. So thank you so much for being a part of the show and for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad that I met you in Fort Collins. Truly, you are such a gift and a bright light. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Well, listening to Marissa, there were four things that I wrote down, and man, blew my mind on these. So, the four things that I really took away: be you, build relationships, add value, and use your gifts. I love this idea of be yourself. She brought this up several times, even towards the end. Stop being the way that you think you need to be because somebody else told you it's the right thing. Tap into who you really are. Be authentic. Use that to build the relationships and never underestimate the power that's inside of you. Building those relationships. We're building trust. When we look at success, you know, success is built upon trust. Trust leads to us being able to build relationships and deliver value. So, really taking time to just don't focus on the sale, focus on the relationships. You don't need a database, you don't need all of those. What you need to do is know your people and bring them into your circle. Again, add value. She started off by talking about this. You do not need to have all the information now. Educate yourself, educate others. If you don't have the information, go and find it, but constantly be a resource to people so that you can give them the information they need. And then also, again, use your gifts. Again, don't try to fit into the box. Everything you have can be a superpower when you use it. So if you're funny, use your humor. If you are more statistical, use that knowledge of statistics and numbers to educate and inform. If you are extroverted, leverage that just as much as if you're introverted. So again, really leverage who you are. There are so many beautiful messages in Marisa's talk, and I hope that you really took them in. I hope that you are feeling more comfortable owning who you are, knowing that you are perfectly imperfect just the way you are, and knowing that you don't have to follow the rules. Here is someone who basically went through the entire checklist of what it takes to be successful in sales and has done just the opposite and has created magic for her family, and for those that she touched. So thank you so much for being here. Please make sure that you are sharing this message with others because I know people could use it. Remember, you don't need to change who you are. You just need to let your own light shine. I'm Clara Capano, and this is Women Winning Their Way.